CEO jobs are really lonely. You're there at the top, you're confused, you're not quite sure what to do. You'll never admit it, but you get scared sometimes. Imagine having somebody with whom you can confide, with whom you can express that vulnerability, if you will. You can say, I actually just don't know what to do here, help. Imagine if such a system were true for every CEO and every leader and every president who had a trusted confidant who could coach them and would not only coach them, but would also coach the team. I knew Bill was on my side, but also on the company's side.
I don't think Bill was that focused on the money. I think Bill was more focused on the team, more focused on the mission, and more focused on getting us all to work together. He did take business very seriously, and we certainly spoke to many people who had been in sales environments with him when they weren't making quota. And Bill could be a tough manager when a company wasn't making its numbers, but he wasn't focused on the numbers for the sake of the numbers.
It's interesting just hearing you talk about the mission. Would you say it is about the importance, Eric, of morality in a company?
Well, it used to be that companies were all about the bottom line. This new generation companies have many other constituents, including, by the way, their employees. Right? You have to satisfy the sense of morality and ethics of your customers, your employees, the regulators, and so forth. It's infinitely harder to do so. What Bill would say was you've got to come up with the right ways of behavior that satisfies all. And you know when you're violating that. You know intrinsically that you're crossing a line that you shouldn't cross, and you will police it yourself.
You, Google, started with that clear moral imperative, didn't you? But when you look at Google now, you have to admit you've arguably failed to change that company culture. You've had employees on the streets right around the world, Singapore, San Francisco, London, Tokyo, unprecedented series of walkouts and protests at the company's treatment of women. It's your own employees telling you what you're getting wrong.
We would argue that that's our culture at work. Google is famously empowering of its employees, and we want to hear from them. These are cases where the employees collectively felt very strongly about the decisions that the company had made.
There's a way of hearing from your employees, and there's a way of a very public statement which suggests they have to tell the world because their own company is not listening.
But transparency is a virtue. And the fact of the matter is that if we had tried to suppress this stuff, it would have come out anyway. It's much better to encourage people to express their opinions.
Well, if you think that transparency is a virtue, then why did your employees find out from a New York Times investigation what you were doing in China, a search engine that would be censored, that they found out from reading the newspaper?
I wasn't involved in those decisions, but I can tell you that certainly the people who were building all these products knew about it. And in any case, the company is not pursuing those products at this moment, according to our new CEO, Sundar.
Not pursuing it after what, 1,400 of your employees signed a letter against it. Your employees found out that you were secretly building a censored version of your search engine for China.
You're implying that there's some surprise here. The company has many, many different products under development. All I can say, I was not involved in this at all, is that the company has indicated it's not pursuing that property at this point.
So what does that mean then? Does that mean that, because we're getting back to that whole question of mission, morality, that the company was wrong to be doing that?
No, the company does many, many different things. I can remember when I was CEO, people would bring up all sorts of ideas and we would have internal debates. The strength of the company is its debate.
So this product, Dragonfly, which you say has now been put to one side, is that gone for good now? Is that?
Couldn't say.
What do you think should happen?
No, I'm no longer involved in the management of the company, so I shouldn't comment.
The reason I ask is because when you were born, you had, as I say, this very clear mission. You were this breath of fresh air, the new kids on the block, weren't you? You know, it was all about, what was the slogan? Don't be evil.
Don't be evil.
Right. And then it became, do the right thing. Now, somewhere between don't be evil and do the right thing lies all these questions.
But in fairness to the current management, these issues have become much, much more complicated. In 2010, the Chinese attacked Google, and Google moved from the mainland to China, mainland into Hong Kong. That decision, which was well documented, was a decision that was heavily argued inside the company. But the company continues to be very successful in China in its advertising business. So over and over again, you want to simplify these questions into good and bad and so forth. The world is a very interconnected place. There are many, many benefits to interacting, among other things, with China. It's not as obvious to me that we should be doing any one of these programs.
But I do want to simplify it in terms of knowing what you think of a censored version of your search engine in a country like China, where you can't even find Tiananmen Square and the massacre when you look for it. Do you feel comfortable with that? Because you may have left now, but this is about culture. This is about your time at that company.
The argument, well, so we're clear, in 2010, I was in favor of remaining in China because I believed that it would be better to stay in China and help change China to be more open. In the debate, the company, after appropriate debate, decided to move to Hong Kong. We don't know whether my strategy would have worked or not.
Are you doing the right thing when you move 20 billion euros through a Dutch shell company to Bermuda to reduce your foreign tax bill? That came from the Dutch Chamber of Commerce. Are you happy that you're on the right side of tax
yes.
ethics?
We are, because that was the way that the taxes were done at the time. The global tax system is incredibly complicated, and we are required to follow the tax rules, and the tax rules allow that. When those tax rules change, of course, we will adopt them. But there is a presumption that somehow we're doing something wrong here. We are following the global tax regime in the same sense that European companies are following the same things that benefit them when they operate in the United States.
But it's more than not doing anything wrong. Your company motto is doing the right thing. Are you doing the right thing when you pay an effective global tax rate of 26% over the past decade? Is that doing the right thing?
It is. It absolutely is. Would you like us to give more voluntarily to these governments? Is that your request?
I want to try and understand how you can write a book about the morality of this company and of how you do business without looking at yourself and feeling uncomfortable with what you do.
We feel very comfortable with what we've done. And I will defend the company and the way it works for a very long time.
And you will feel like you're doing the right thing when you get fined by the EU, what was it, 8.2 billion euros over the last couple of years for abusing your monopoly, muscling out your competitors.
I don't agree with the ruling, and the company doesn't either, and it's busy appealing it. In fact, I was the person who worked very hard to fight against that ruling. We just don't agree with the decision. I strongly defend Google's behavior over the period of time that we've been involved, and I will continue to do so.
Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Okay.